All right, are we ready to go? Can you guys hear me? All right, cool. Well, my name is Ivy Nelson. I write steamy contemporary romance. I've published 19 books. Have a very large ARC team, and that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, is how to manage ARC teams, maybe how to get one started if you've never ran one before, and maybe some, like, why they're a good idea. I will say, me moderating this panel was a very last-minute thing, so I am hoping that this will just be a wonderful conversation about ARCs.
Good.
So why don't you guys go ahead and start off and tell everybody who you are, and we'll start there.
I'm Jami Albright. Oh, are we on?
Are we on?
I probably not.
There we go. Go.
Here's a little song I wrote back in '65. It's been mighty good to me. It goes something like this. I'm Jami Albright. I write romantic comedy. I am a podcaster. I co-host the Wish I'd Known Then for Writers podcast. And thank you. And I have a pretty good sized art team, about 200 people. And they don't all get a book at the same time, but they have been invaluable to me. I have 6 books written, 6.5 books out, and yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Jamie Davis, commonly known as the other Jamie, and so I write what I like to call fun fantasy and sci-fi reads. Most of my books are urban fantasy, but I have an ARC team of about 50 people. And been cultivating that to grow it a little bit larger recently, but they've done well for me over the last 5 years or so.
I think I might already. I'm Shawn Inmon. I mostly write time travel these days, or portal fiction. I started out in memoirs and transitioned because I only had so many stories in my own life that I could tell. And I'm giving a talk on that right next door, right after this. So, and I have 32 books out, and I have about 300 people on my ARC teams.
Awesome. So yeah, you can kind of see we've got like a wide range of ARC team sizes. So maybe if you're somebody who only has 10 people on your ARC team, like that's nothing. They're still very, very useful. One of the things that I have found, I want to see if it's the same for you guys, that my ARC team is a really great way to create superfans.
Yep.
So how do you guys use your ARC team maybe to kind of cultivate that super fandom? Because for me, it's like there's a certain group of people that get the book a little bit early because I know they're that super fan. So whoever wants to.
I can start off that.
Yeah.
I think I have the smallest ARC team group here, but I have spent a lot of time having conversations with them on email. They always seem to respond back when I send them something by email to my list. That's one way maybe that you can spot somebody who's a good fit for your ARC team, if they're responding back to your email questions. And I always ask questions in my newsletters that I send out. I always try to ask a question at the end, and those people are the most often the ones who respond. So that's how I've filled that team over the years. And one of the ways I engage with them is sometimes I send them just randomly, send them chapters or send them links to, like, I'll read a segment and I'll send them the direct link to what I've read. So if you have a TikTok channel or something, engage, give them, like, here's the special direct link. And just make them feel special because they are an integral part of what I do. And so I try to engage them that way.
Let's see. I treat my ARC team like my best readers. I think of them as my A+ readers. So before I ever announce anything on my writer's Facebook page, I announce it in my ARC group. So they see my covers first. I post my whole writing schedule for the next year inside my writers group. Here's what I'm going to be publishing over the next 12 months. Obviously, they see my books first. I tend to share the first 25,000 words of a book in my ARC group first because I like to get feedback from them as to whether I've wandered off the path of where I'm wanting to go or not. And they are not afraid to tell me when I have wandered off the path. They're great about that. They'll give me instantaneous feedback. And so that's how I treat them. They get everything first, and I guess that's it. I'm pretty active in my group. I like to just go in and post and have conversations with them as well, because I feel like they're a pretty big key to what I do.
So do you have a Facebook group for them?
I do. I have a Facebook group that has, I think we've got 325, 330 people in there. And the only way to get in is to ask. And the only way to ask is to click on a link in the back of the book. I never advertise. That way I know everybody that's in there is in there because they've read at least one of my books. And I don't put that link at the back of every book. I put it at the back of maybe every 6 or 8 books because I don't want it to be too big.
Awesome. Yeah. So are you saying that you use that, you put the first 25,000 words in? So
Yeah.
are you saying that you use that like as a kind of advanced beta team?
Yeah, so mine is a combination,
Great.
advanced reader and beta team. And I can't tell you how often I've changed entire elements of the first 25,000 words because of feedback that I get from them. It's a very consistent thing.
And if you're kind of in a genre where you kind of really have to niche down, and a lot of times you'll hear advice of stay in your lane, if you send your books out to your ARC readers, you kind of can get a feeling for, am I actually staying in my lane? Because they will, like he said, they're going to give you that immediate feedback. So I kind of want to bust a couple of ARC team myths. What do you guys think about, because this is something that I hear a lot from people who maybe have never started an ARC team before, is if I start an ARC team and I send my books out to people for free, it's going to hurt my sales.
I will go first. I do not adhere to this at all. Here's my deal. When I first put my first book out, I got involved with a promotion called Shifted Sheets. It's a terrible name, but it worked really well. It was $50 dollars. They don't have the same thing, but there are some places you can still do something like this. But I sent my book to them. They sent it out to their reader. It's like a newsletter thing that they have. You opted in if you wanted to read it. I gave away 300 books. But guess what? I didn't have any readers. And a lot of those 300 people are now my readers because of that. And then I got about 75 reviews out of that 300. And some people say that's not good enough odds. But for me, that's fantastic.
That's
and
good.
I had 75 reviews on day 3 of release of my first book. So let me just tell you, giving away books is not a bad thing at all. It gets you readers. It finds you readers that may not be your reader.
True.
In the, because I mean, I didn't have readers, so, but now they are.
Yeah, I saw some of your guys' reactions to her basically review rate. So kind of maybe talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I have about 50 people on my ARC team, and I count on about 20 to 25 reviews on a release.
Well, that's great.
From that,
That's amazing.
and that not even sometimes that much sometimes, and especially for stuff that I know I'm off track because I shift genres and I'm bad, so don't be Jamie. But so some of my ARC readers just don't read all of my books because they're not interested in them. And we all know how busy people are. So sometimes you're going to send stuff to ARC readers and they're not going to open the email because life's getting in their way and they don't have time to read your book. It's not because they don't want to, it's because they can't. So I think it's just important to keep that in mind. And if you get 25 to 50% reader rate, I think anywhere in that ballpark is probably just fine.
And I will just say this, that I now, from my second book on, because I developed my ARC team a little differently, and not a little differently, but in a certain way, and we can talk about that later, but by the end of the first week, and sometimes even before that, I have 100 reviews on every book. And the last 2 books, I've had 50 reviews on the day of release, and I can talk about how I do that. But or actually before the day of release. So ARC teams, they're awesome. But I'm kind of with Jamie. If somebody takes a book and can't review it, I don't kick them off immediately. Things just happen. I mean, this last year and a half has shown us that. So I don't just kick them off. But if they take a book a couple of times and don't review, then that's a different story. But So anyway, that's how.
I give away, potentially give away 300 books every time because I've got about 330 people in my group. A couple of things I've discovered. I call these people my A-plus readers because they are, which means a lot of them, I'm going to say a pretty staggeringly high percentage, go and buy the book that I've given them. So I give them a free download through BookFunnel, and the day it hits, they go and buy the book.
Yeah.
Why? Because they want to support me, because those are my A-plus fans. So I never worry about giving too many books away. And I'm going to say I probably have the lowest review percentage. If I get 20 to 25% of my 325 people or so, I'm thrilled with that. Because all I think about ARC reviews are, these are my seed reviews. That's going to get me to where I've got 20, 25 reviews in the first 2 days that I've got my book launch. And from there, it's going to take off on its
Right.
own. And they're going to be organic
It's
from
so
there.
interesting because one review begets another review, begets another review, and it's sort of like a snowball. Once you get a certain number, it's like people, I don't know the science behind it, but it is really interesting.
But it works.
Yeah, it really does. So.
Yeah, it really does. One of the things that I've noticed is that I have a newsletter aside from my ARC team. So I will send out a newsletter thanking every one of my ARC team for their reviews, and it's like it prompts the readers who aren't on my ARC team to also go and leave their reviews. So there is kind of that snowball effect. So let's get into just a few of like the basics of how you manage your ARC teams. Are you using Google Forms? Are you using how are you keeping it organized?
Should I talk about how I grow mine? Or
Yeah, if you want to start there,
you
yeah.
wanna start there?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you read one of my books, you get 3 emails after. The first one says, I hope you, because I give away a freebie usually. And so I hope you got your freebie. And here are my other books. This is a little bit about me. The second one is if you enjoyed and they get that the first one 5 days later. The second one's 5 days after that. If you enjoyed the book, would you consider leaving a review? And then the next one they get, which is 5 days after that, is it's help a sister out is what it is. And would you be interested in being on my ARC team? And that's how I've grown my ARC group. And so
And that's from a link in the back matter of your book.
yeah. So at the end of the book, in the back matter of the book, like in the first book, it says, if you want to know what happens to Scarlett and Gavin a year later, it involves a hot rock star, a naked trip to the barn, and the Baptist preacher. They click that. Who's not going to click that? But they click that, and then it takes them to an extra scene. It's literally 1,300 words. That's it. But it's funny, and it goes, it's in the same feel of the book. And then from that triggers an automated system that I've set up, and it just runs. So they get those after that. And then how I handle it now is we use my PA, and we use Google Forms. And so the emails come to me, and then I just kind of hang on to them because I don't release very fast, as some of you already know. And so I release very slowly. And so they'll go long months between books for me. So when it's time, we send an email, hey, Jamie's got a book coming out. If you're interested, here's a Google form. Please leave a review of your, from the last time you got an ARC. And then we go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think one thing I always try to do is when I think someone's a good fit, I might ask them to send me a link to one of there's nothing wrong with that, just to see what kind of reviews, not necessarily star-wise they leave, but do they write detailed reviews? Because people do read the reviews, and so do they leave a detailed enough review that isn't just loved it, ... It's like, okay. So you want to see what kind of reviewer they are, and if they may say, I want to be on your review team, but they don't send you a link to any review they've ever left in their lives, then that may be a flag.
And when I was asked to be on the panel, I think my response was, I'm happy to go on because I'll be Mr. Bad Example, and I am, because I'm the least organized person up here about.
No, I am.
We're gonna have to wrestle for that. Because here's what I do. When I have my book ready to be ARC read, I put a link up in my reader group, which is on Facebook. That is step 1 through 10. There is no step 11. Okay, and that's all I do. That's it. And that's what gets me my 25 or 30 reviews that I start my book's little life off with.
And I will say that there are readers, like I have a reader group, and my art team is in the reader group, but I don't do any art stuff in that group. There are authors who have separate art team groups that are just for their art team. I don't do that. I don't want that much work.
So I think the question I have for you about that, so do you ever go through your reader group, or I guess your ARC team group, and like pull people out who aren't reviewing? Do you watch?
Not much. Like I say, I don't have many steps in mine.
Because I don't really track either, but I make my readers think that I track.
Exactly.
My challenge is that, I mean, the group can get kind of big and unwieldy because I probably add 4 to 5 people out of links in the back of my book into the group. So at the end of a year, I've added another couple of hundred people. So all I do is go through my list, because it's a Facebook group. I go through my list, and if I don't recognize their name, that they haven't liked, that they haven't interacted in the group in any way, I'll go in and make a post that says, look, I haven't seen some of your names in a while. I get it, times change, life goes on. If you don't want to be in my art group anymore, that's totally cool. But if you do, make sure you respond to this Facebook post, which of course that's a little iffy because Facebook doesn't show. But if they've been so inactive in my group that Facebook isn't showing them when I post, it's probably okay for me to boot them. So I'm going to say maybe every 12 months I go through and probably kick out 50 to 100 people that just aren't active in my group. It's not that they haven't reviewed, it's that they're not active within the group.
Yeah, and I have both a Facebook group and an email list, and there's some crossover between the two, but I just don't trust Facebook to necessarily make sure everybody's seeing everything in the groups. So I do occasionally, push, hey, if you aren't on the email list, please sign up for the email list. I post that inside the Facebook group because there is some crossover between the two groups, and I always try to push people towards email because I control that.
And Jamie, I had one more question for you about, so you have that 3 email sequence. Does that dump them onto a separate mailing list that's just ARC team, or are they on like your entire?
They're on my entire list, and then they bring me, they email me and say I want, and then I put them on a separate email list. That's my
and that's what you send the Google form out to. Okay,
Yeah.
That's something similar to what I do. I actually don't have a separate list. I literally just send a Google form to my entire list of, if you would like an ARC, sign up for it here. They have to put in a link of a book of mine that they've reviewed before. So if they've never reviewed for me, I'm not going to send them a book. But one of the things that I do is I have a freebie that they can review that's up on Amazon. And so if they say, hey, I want to be on your review team, but I've never reviewed for you before, I say, well, hey, great, here's a free book.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I manage mine.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So this is going to sound bad, so I'm just warning you up front. But this time I got 2 reviews, because I'm sort of like Shawn. I don't have a lot of steps, and I don't really monitor a lot, but I do like watch when the reviews come out, before, that first week or so. And I got 2 reviews, which were 4 stars, which fine. I have no problem with that. I don't even have a problem really with 3, like in general. Sorry, don't have a problem with 3 stars. But if you're on my art team, I'm not sure I want you giving me a 3-star review.
Just about to ask about that.
And the thing is that like a 4-star that reads like a 3-star is still not okay. And I had 2 of those, and they are not on my art team anymore. And I did not feel bad at all about taking them off, because I'm giving you a free book. And I want an honest review, yes, but if you can't love the book, then just don't leave a review and send me an email. And that's fine. And I tell them that up front. Yeah, I tell them that.
I had a question.
Yeah, I tell them that up front in the email, like, hey, if you don't love the book, that is so fine. Let me know before you post a review. Because I just want to know, because they are welcome to post a review. Just wait a week. Don't do it the first week it's out. And if you're on an art team, you should be savvy enough to know that in romance.
Especially in romance.
In romance.
I don't know about other genres.
I don't know about other genres, but in romance, that would definitely be true.
So that was actually one of the next questions on my list is what do you guys do with negative reviewers? Do you just leave them on your team? Do you just, like, what is your philosophy?
No, if I see a negative reviewer that is on my ARC team, I tend to, first thing I do is actually email them. If I know who they are and I can email them, I email them and say, you know, what was wrong with the book for you? Because they don't often leave that detailed a review. And maybe it was just the wrong genre because I do cross genres, and then I'll be a little more careful with what I send to that person. Because if it's, you know, I write dystopian sci-fi, and then I also write urban fantasy, and they may not like it. And they didn't get the memo that they shouldn't read the one they don't like. So I make sure I do that. But I have taken people off that leave a negative review because it may seem a little sketchy, but I think that it's perfectly acceptable to do that.
I've never kicked anybody off for a bad review.
I don't think I have either, but I think it's because I'm very much like you and I don't really track it. I do send out a link at the end of like the review period. I give them like a week or so after release to leave the review. I send out a Google form that says, hey, drop your links here, but I don't actually look at them. Mostly because my PA reads all my reviews for me and pulls out all the snippets that I can use in graphics. And that's actually another really good reason to have an art team is so that you can have those teaser reviews on release day of like, hey, so-and-so gives this 5 stars. If you have those on release day, it kind of can help create a little bit more buzz for your book.
And honestly, I don't think it happens that often.
No, it really doesn't.
It's not a common occurrence. I think in all time, I think I've done it to 3 people.
I think that maybe if you were getting a bunch of negative reviews on a book that you sent to your ARC team, then maybe that's a sign that, oh, maybe I jumped way out of like what I've been writing, and it just might be a thing that you evaluate. But
And
it really doesn't happen that
I
often.
can add to that. So I have a 14-book time travel series that's my bread and butter. I have a 7-book portal fiction series that is also that. And this year I decided I really want a 3rd series, and I jumped over into fantasy. And I shared that book in my advanced reader group to thundering silence. And at that point I thought, I may have misstepped here. And now, 6 months after that first book came out, that's the worst release I've had in the last 6 years, I would say. It sold some copies, but it ain't selling like the other books are selling. So, and here's another mistake I made, which maybe I can help you with. I had announced in advance that this was going to be a series, and specifically a trilogy. And now I've just released a book to crickets. I don't want to spend the next 5 months of my life writing the next 2 books. So I took book 2 and book 9. I also, because book 1, because I'm dumb, ended on a cliffhanger. And I couldn't just leave my readers there because I did sell 1,000 copies of it. I'm not going to leave 1,000 readers. So I took book 2 and book 3, I squished them together, and I wrote book 2 and said, that's it, that's the end. But if I'd paid attention to my ARC readers, I would have probably known before I even released that book. I had stepped out of my lane.
Yeah.
And I'm going to save some time for questions at the end. So, okay, I've
15
got
minutes.
15 minutes, yeah. Perfect.
Oh, we're good.
We're good. So what do you guys feel about like using paid services to find reviewers?
I've used Booksprout, and I've been really happy with them. The thing about I use the paid version, which I think I paid $50. It seems to be a theme, but I think I like them because to stay on the service, the people have to review. So if they take a copy, they have to review. And I had people on there that would post a review and then send me an email and say, hey, would you please mark that I reviewed this? Because they don't want to lose their spot. So it was a good, I think for $50 you got.
I think you get unlimited with $50.
Was that it?
I pay $20 for the 50 reviews.
Oh, well, maybe it's that.
Yeah.
I paid the $20 for 50 reviews. That's probably what it was. And so everyone that took a copy, which I think 35 people is what I think it was, took a copy, they all reviewed. So I'm for it, especially if it's affordable like that.
Yeah, I have almost 100% review rate on Booksprout. Yeah. One of the things I'll see is I have like a long running series. So I'll put up like book 7, and I get most of my reviews in. Then when book 8 goes up, those last few stragglers that forgot to leave their review on book 7 will run and leave reviews really fast. So you kind of see an uptick in reviews on the previous book sometimes too. What about you guys?
The last time I looked, they were booked way out. Is that still the case with
Booksprout?
Booksprout? I mean, they were like 6 or 7 months before they could get to a book.
Booksprout is pretty instantaneous. Yeah, now anyway.
Yeah.
It might have been different in the
I didn't
past.
use it this time,
Yeah.
but I used it last year. Last year when I released a book, I didn't use it this year.
I'll give my answer real quick. I've never used any of those
Yeah,
services.
me either. So you'll have to go with their answer.
So I wonder if that's like a romance
It
to
probably is.
non-romance thing.
Probably is.
Very likely. Do we want to open it up for questions?
Sure.
You
Yeah.
guys, yeah. So
we've
we've
spent
got
all
the mic.
There's a mic right
right back there.
You can go stand at the mic, or you can, yeah.
If passing
You
it
wanna
around
pass
works,
around?
that's fine.
This gentleman here.
He had his hand up first.
Yeah, hi. This is a really tactical kind of question and rookie problem. When I send out my ARCs, they get told that they can't review on Amazon prior to release date.
Oh, I was
And so
gonna say that.
mechanically, how do you work around it? Because I've got 20, 25 people, but then it takes me a month to get those 20 or 25 reviews.
Yeah. So this is what I do. I put my paperback up at least 2 weeks before review. Well, at least a week. I try to do it 2 weeks before a review. Before a release. And they can leave the review on the paperback. Then when the ebook comes out, they merge. And usually they merge automatically, but if they don't merge automatically, I just call Amazon and that day they've merged them. So that's how I've had 50 reviews on day of release.
So even if they're getting e-copies?
Yes, because they are only going to the paperbacks page and leaving the review. And that's worked just really, really well for me. It's
That's what I
super
do as
easy.
well.
Yeah, is that
Yeah.
what you do?
That's a trick.
Yeah.
Yep,
That's a trick.
that's the trick. So,
I'm going to ask mine really quick. Wow, I'm asking. It's not working.
Uh-oh.
Hello?
It's okay. Just
It's not.
stand up and talk loud.
I'll just talk. So when you were talking about switching genres and having issues with that, do you find that with like contemporary and historical romance, you need to have like 2 different art groups, or even those won't
Yeah.
go back and forth?
She asked if you have 2 different, like if you write historical and contemporary, should you have 2 different art groups? I say yes. I say, and this is just me, but I say if you write different genres, they need to be kept separate. But that's just me. I don't write different genres. But I know the problems that people have had when they've combined. You have problems with your also bots. You have problems with Amazon just not knowing who to give your book to, or show your book to. And then if you, like Jamie said, and if you send your historical people a contemporary romance, they're not going to review it well or review it at all. So that's wasted effort. So, yeah.
One of the things that you can do is segment your mailing list.
Yeah.
And you can ask questions that maybe go to everybody that's on your mailing list that will kind of give you a hint. You can ask them to click on things. And if they happen to read both of your genres, you can keep them on both of your ARC teams. But a lot of times what they click on is going to kind of give you a hint.
Panel, this is excellent. Thank you. This is for Ms. Albright. So do you need to, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you,
Okay.
yes.
There's something wrong with this.
So Ms. Albright, do you actually put a physical book up? Or can you just, what if somebody downloads it and it's not ready yet?
Okay, so I have the finished copy ready 2 weeks ahead. Between when I get it back from my editor and I do my edits and send it to my ARC team. I send it to my ARC team 2 weeks before release. So that book is ready 2 weeks before release. So I upload the paperback copy. And I usually set the price really high, like $20 or something, and I inevitably have somebody, at least 1 or 2 people buy it. It's crazy. I'm like, I would never pay $20 for one of my books, but
I would.
apparently, thank you, Ivy. Apparently, there are at least 5 or 6 people that would. But yeah, so I have the finished product ready 2 weeks before.
Can I do this
Could you do it 6 weeks before? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll just tell you that here's a little tip. If you do it 6 weeks before, do a $119 Goodreads giveaway
Yeah.
Yeah.
with that paperback book.
Next question. Who we got here? I can't see. There we go. Good.
Just, yeah.
So, I write cozies.
Oh, yeah.
They review directly to Goodreads, and I keep saying, can you please put it on Amazon? Can you please put it on Amazon?
Yeah.
But I'm getting more reviews on Goodreads than on Amazon. So how?
I just go with,
The question?
oh, I'm sorry.
That's because they can't hear.
Repeat it.
The question was, if you have readers that are reviewing directly on Goodreads, and not, how do you get them to also review on Amazon?
Go ahead.
So one of the things that I do is whenever I send out my ARC form to request their links back, I have a spot specifically for what is your Amazon link. And that kind of reminds them, oh, hey, I should go put this on Amazon too.
Yeah, when I send out, or my PA, we send out a follow-up email that says, well, when I put up the paperback, I send out an email. So that's a week into them reading it. Hey, if you're done, you can go now and review on Amazon. And here's the link to the paperback. Then when the ebook comes out, we send another email that says it's out. We want can you have this up by whatever 5 days after or whatever? And here are the links. And I have all the links: BookBub, Goodreads, and Amazon. But if you have a reader group, I have gone into my reader group before when I was trying to do something in the UK. I can't remember what it was, but I said, hey, if you're in the UK and you've reviewed, or if you're in, the UK and you've reviewed on the US store, would you mind putting your review on the UK store? And they did it within 30 minutes. And I went from having like 15 to 55 or something on there because they just hadn't bothered to do it. So just asking is easy.
And I'd also add that the good point that Jamie made was send them reminders. It's okay. Like, people are busy and they aren't going to open every email you send. So I do what she does. I send out my review ARC copies 2 weeks before launch. I send an email a week later saying, if you have already read it, thank you. You can leave the review on the paperback copy. Here's the link. I do it again on launch day. I do it again the day after launch, and I do it again a week after launch. So
It's very similar.
Yeah.
I had a question for you. Let's say you have a trilogy and you publish each book one at a time, but then later you put them as a single product. Is there anything special you do with your art team to try to get them to also review that?
So the question is, if you have a series of books and then you later bundle them, how do you get reviews on the bundle from the people that have already reviewed?
I go and ask. I mean,
Just email them.
I emailed my whole list, and I just said, hey, if you've reviewed any of the books, would you go leave a review on the box set? And
I have
did.
done that, and I also will sometimes send out a new copy of the box set to like a review. I'll have an official review team for the box set as well, because that can draw in. Maybe you've gotten readers over the course of the trilogy who weren't on your ARC team
That's
for
true.
one, but are now on 3. So if you send them a copy of the box set, they'll review it. So.
Do you ask them to repeat any of their reviews or just write a new one? Or?
Oh,
I
I
ask
say-
them to write a new one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just.
I do too. And but I also, I mean, that's the thing about your ARC team. Like I said, I don't review. I mean, I don't release very often. Like lately, it's been once a year, and so that's a long time for people to sit on my ARC team and get nothing. So I will send them other people's books sometimes if I know, if I know the author and stuff, and they're newer and they don't have an ARC team. I will do that because that's a free book for my ARC team. I mean, that's no skin off my back, and I'm not threatened. I mean, there's enough readers for all of us. So because of that, and they like that, but I create an environment where it's okay to go in and say, hey, would you do this for me? Or would you do this for somebody else? And I think that's helped. I think that's why my ARC team responds as well as they do.
I'm super blind. How much time do we have left?
3 minutes and 40
All right, so we've got time for like another question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We've got 2 here. Let's.
We can do two.
How do those reviews affect the Amazon verified purchase reviews versus other reviews?
I don't even worry about it. I don't worry, do you?
I don't worry at all, and I've also found, because like I said, I have a lot of my ARC team or my super fans, they buy the book, and so they get that verified tag. And actually, one thing I have done before is I'll tell my review team, hey, if you want a verified tag on your review, go buy the book. And they will. Like, if you ask your readers to do things, like, don't be afraid to ask your readers for things, basically.
In the past, on occasion, I've done the super secret review team sale where I don't tell anyone but my review team list, hey, I'm dropping the price for 24 hours to 99 cents.
I've done that before,
on
yeah,
this
that
day,
works.
and you can get it right now if you want the verified tag on your review. So you can do that.
Go ahead.
What would you do differently if you haven't got the book out yet? Because most of you are saying, like, after I make sure that they're going to review the book. How do you build your team other than going to Booksprout? Is that where you start, or where do you find?
I would probably start at Booksprout because basically the shifted sheets was like Booksprout, and that's where I got my reviews. Yes. I mean, I kept I got their emails, but it was a different sort of thing. But I got their emails, and then I kept them in a separate file. I've got my fingers crossed because I want to remember to say something. But I kept them in a separate list, and then when it was my next release, I emailed them and said, "Hey, you reviewed for me with shifted sheets. Would you be interested in reviewing again?" With Booksprout, you can't. Can you do that? I don't remember.
You can't. I mean, you do get their email addresses, but like I always feel weird about.
I don't know if I would do
yeah.
it there, but that's definitely where I would start because for $20 and 50 reviews, that's a good.
Yeah, I
number
mean,
of
it
reviews.
really is.
That's a good number of reviews.
One of the other things, just really quickly, that I did, my very first book, I had like a review team of 8 people.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I reached out to authors because I had been a little bit, to try to be active like in some reader or author Facebook groups. And I reached out to some of them and said, hey, would you send this ARC to your newsletter?
Yep.
And they'll say yes. I mean, you can't guarantee that everybody's going to say yes, but a lot of authors will help you out and do that.
And
Or
when
in their groups. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. When I first got started, I actually asked some authors in my genre if they would help me out just with the review of the first book. And I said, I swear I will not keep these people. I will not do anything with these people. They will not go anywhere but for this one book. And I just sent them the link. I got a nice group of reviews from it. I sent them one email at the end thanking them and said, if anyone wants to join my ARC team, here's where you can do it. Otherwise, you'll never hear from me again. And I respected that, and I think if you honor that pledge, there are enough people out there in your genre who would be happy to help out a new author.
Last question.
So am I hearing that 2 weeks is kind of the magical number to
Yes.
get them?
That really is for me, because otherwise, if you send it to them too far, they'll forget to leave their reviews. Too close, and they feel like there's so much pressure to read it fast. So I try to give them, about 2 weeks.
Okay, I got 10 seconds to say this. If your ARC team leaves reviews on Goodreads, it is okay to go to Goodreads and like and comment on those 5-star reviews and interact, because that throws your book up into the feed for Goodreads, and it's extra exposure.
And
That's
I
it.
get people requesting my books that way too,
Yeah.
because they see me commenting. So,
Yeah.
so thank
That
you
was
everybody
it.
for coming. I think we're done. So.
Good job. Rob, you're so organized.
I don't feel like it, but thank you.
I don't know what I'm
I
doing
know.
with this.
It's
Like,
size,
I'm on the AV team, and I don't know.
but I didn't do that because I thought sexual
Somebody
harassment
help.
here in the it's probably not okay.
We're not coworkers.
We're not coworkers. We're peers.
That's right. Ivy, thank you for hosting.
Great job.
Thank you.
Hey. Jamie. Hi. Yes. Oh.